see staff, but I don't see any extra public. Appreciate everybody attending though. I'm looking for a motion on the minutes for the May 27th meeting. Anybody read those and want to approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Motion by Jeff.
I have an opinion about the
Hang on.
notes. It's
Second, hang on, let's get it on the table.
a correction that I think
Hang on,
would
that'll
be
be a
necessary.
discussion. Seconded by Clint.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Should I share?
Now. Yes.
I stepped out before the vote, so this doesn't reflect me necessarily, so maybe there's
Which
no.
vote? Where are you at?
Go to page 5, go to point 2, it says foundation strategies. The board would like the foundation to focus on fundraising with a full-time director focusing on donations. I think that should say the foundation board proposed or submitted. And that reads like we were like, hey, foundation, we really should have a full-time fundraiser. But really they brought the case forward to be discussed. Would you agree?
They did bring it forward.
I just
So
think
you're
for Claire, like
suggesting
for people that
somewhere in
weren't in
there-
the meeting that, because I mean, if you track back in the same packet, we have the foundation meeting that said that the board asked the foundation to discuss paying for their own director. You know what I'm saying? This just doesn't, anybody that's reading it will be like, yes, these two things don't make sense, so.
Okay, so what I read here, it says the board would like the foundation, this is the board, speaking of our board, would like the foundation to focus on fundraising with a full-time director. That was our
You can have the ask.
end result, right? And what I think I'm hearing Abby say is, prior to that sentence, we probably ought to have a little bit of what happened at the foundation
Say the
board.
foundation,
Yeah.
hosted it.
Yeah, if we help
Proposed.
people correlate, like,
There
where the
was
conversation
discussion,
came
and the board made a conclusion.
it's minor,
Is that
but
kinda what you're looking
it's an opinion, but I do think it adds some clarity too.
That's fine. It's what amendments are all about, is opinions.
So I make a motion to amend the minutes to reflect that.
Okay.
So
Are you also approving the rest of the minutes except that?
I would, but
So let's put that all in one motion if you would. Approve the minutes as amended.
I approve the minutes as amended. Second.
Seconded by Mindy, moved by Abby. Oh, we already had a motion on the floor, excuse me.
Right.
So now,
I'm sorry, I forgot that.
So maybe it could be Jeff's motion to approve it if as
I think
amended.
you have to vote on amending the motion. Then you have to vote on the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I make
Why
the
don't you
motion
make
to
a motion
amend.
to amend. Mindy seconds. As discussed, amended as discussed.
Mhm.
All right, so we're voting on the motion to just amend the minutes of May 27th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Now we go back to the other motion. We're in discussion on all the minutes. Any other changes or amendments?
Let me see what time it says we're finishing at, then I'll have to just get different. Yeah, I
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Any opposed? Okay. So we're down past the minutes. All right, we have an agenda before you. Anybody have any changes or additions to our current agenda for today?
I can see.
I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda then.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Abby, seconded by Mindy, to approve the agenda as written. Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are now going to go into our budget hearing. It's a public hearing. And I think what I would like, and you guys, administration, tell me if I'm going to do it some way different. We've had enough changes that I'd like Scott and Dan to go through our budget changes from the May meeting, so that we can have a proper hearing on a proper budget. That sounds good?
Perfect. Here, you bet.
I think we have some highlights here somewhere, don't we?
But
Starting on page 14.
what page it's on, but there was a supplemental, memorandum put into your,
14 was the numbers.
so it reconciles what was in the plan last month as presented, and then we'll enumerate several changes that were made.
Okay.
I can pull it up here if you may, just so you're looking at the right
I
thing.
think that would be good.
Okay. Tanya will share that screen there. Just hold on just a second. Make sure we're all looking at the same thing. All right, this is a little small, but this is in that package on page 2.
Okay, that's actually page 17 in our packet, I think.
Okay, that's right. All right, so a number of developments since we last met, more things that come to light that we'll talk about here that made us consider adjusting our plan based on information that that have come to us. So anyway, so last time we presented the plan, the operating income for the year was $2,896,000. Now I can get that detail up. You probably have it in last month's package. So here are the several things that we changed in the plan based on further information coming to us and upon further consideration. So the first thing was a decrease in volume in our OR case estimate. We reduced that somewhat, moderated the existing. I think we reduced it by around 300 cases for the year. And based on that, there was a reduction in the net.
So that dropped about $1 million.
Million,
Is that right?
$1,000,005 right here.
Now that's what it is now. Oh, that's
That's the change from the original
oh, okay.
net patient revenue. Okay.
Let me
So it dropped to what?
provide a little color on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you may ask, okay, why?
That's gonna be my question.
So we had a nice, healthy conversation with Jim Bannon, the CFO of Ivanson. And they're going through their budget process as well. And they are budgeting 0 increase in volume. And what the justification for them, which we agree with, is that more and more people are getting out of commercial insurance. And with them getting out of commercial insurance, when you don't have insurance, you don't use it. When you do have insurance, you use it. And they're already starting to see kind of that slowdown where people will defer their care. So that is the main reason why we backed off a little bit with our us feeling like we could, we still have growth built into the budget, but it's not as an aggressive growth number.
One other consideration, if you recall, is that because the subsidies on the exchange are gone away,
Yeah.
more people are
Too expensive.
electing to not have, just go naked on insurance. So we did, again, like Dan said, have a slight increase year over year, but not as aggressive as before.
So we were at 2.4 in May, if I remember right. Is that right? Increase? And now we're thinking it's going to drop 1.5 from that number?
Yes,
Is that what you're telling me?
that's the impact of the reduction in volumes on the cases that we originally estimated.
So we're only expecting 900,000 increase. Is that my
$1
math
million,
go right?
$1 million due to volume increase.
Close to $1 million, okay. And what data are they reading in the tea leaves? Iverson doesn't want to, I mean, they don't think they're gonna have any volume growth, is what I'm hearing.
They're
We
not.
talked about the insurance and
That's the reasons why.
I mean, is there other, I mean, is that anecdotal or is it data?
Well,
And we've seen it,
I feel it, yeah.
we've seen it, and so it's
It's
just.
dangerous on deferred maintenance, like I'm thinking houses and bodies too, but it's totally a fact. And like when you've met your deductible, you don't defer maintenance, you get everything else done, but you can think about it.
so what the data is, if we don't have it prepared today, but if we were to do an analysis on the cost of the exchange population right now versus last year, so that's one analysis, is how much out of pocket they're going to have to, you know, with the big beautiful bill.
Premiums went up, as I understand it.
And deductibles went up. Okay, so we could show you that analysis. We're just not prepared to do that today.
That's fine, I'm just wondering.
So that's one data point. The second data point is how many people were enrolled in the exchange population last year versus this year.
Saying that's decreased.
That's decreasing. So the number of uninsured are going up. And so those are really the two data points that we're pointing to, they're pointing to, as to, hey, you better not have aggressive expectations on volume.
And I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean, if you're
disagreeing
pleasantly
with you.
surprised if we're wrong and we have the growth,
Yeah.
we're doing it great, but if you don't anticipate it, then it's just another headwind we didn't anticipate.
Yeah,
I'd rather
exactly.
anticipate it.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not disagreeing.
And what does $900,000 increase from surgery, like how many cases is that?
Well, we reduced it, we had it, we originally had getting back to our 2025 volumes.
Yeah.
Which is about 400 case
Yeah.
surgeries.
That-
So we just took 2026 anticipated and bumped that up. I think it was 12%, now it's like 7%.
So are we saying about 100 surgeries
A little bit more than that,
of growth?
yeah. So,
Yeah, one of the goals, one of the CFO goals was increasing surgery cases by some percent, right?
Well, it was,
where did I go?
it was total encounters, which does include outpatient surgery.
Love total encounter. I was like, how come you control? You never know.
yeah, so we just, the rest of the volumes felt that they, we just left those alone, but this made this is the one where the
Yeah.
big swings can happen, so we just softened that estimate somewhat. The next one was the larger impact on our net patient revenue estimate.
And this just happened just last Friday.
Yeah. So, as you recall, just to remind, each year, Medicare during the fiscal year will review our rates based on the last cost report filed and say, hey, you look like your actual volumes and Medicare volumes and total volumes during your current fiscal year based on what you filed in 2025, going up or down, and they'll look at your rate and adjust it for you. They did that one time with only their data, kind of using, I'll call it rudimentary estimating. And they sent us a shocker saying, hey, you owe us $1.9 million. And we said, we don't agree with that. So we went back to the well and provided them another layer of detail, which they didn't require at first, but now they did. Or now we gave it to them with Bailey. They just finished up the final about 95% of their model for us, and they knew the rudimentary approach they took, so we added work into further reducing that. And but still, it came up where the rate we have been being paid at was 56%, and they suggested to move it down to 50. Well, at the end of the day, about 55% reimbursement. But that's due to our volume increase year over year, 25 to 26. Utilization is up.
Medicare utilization.
Medicare and overall.
And overall. Yeah.
But overall, it's up, and overall, our costs are not up as much as the growth in the utilization as measured by gross charges. That's how they do it. So anyway, long story short, they have agreed with all the information we've given them. Bailey is saying we're on track now we're still gonna, we're still outpacing them likely. But this would be the impact of going back to our estimates with a smaller reimbursement rate anticipated for 2026 carrying into 2027. And gets a lot of the math. But that would be an impact of just reducing that reimbursement rate from 56 down to about 54 for 27.
Because we assume we get further efficient, and so then we get paid less for being efficient.
And we're seeing more Medicare, so we're actually getting paid. They're saying we're paying you more on more volume, therefore that number is bigger.
The average cost per encounter, one way to look at it, since they reimburse our costs, right? Average cost per encounter, with more encounters at the same cost, it means less cost per encounter, right?
Yep.
And they can only reimburse us at say 56% or 54% of a smaller number. That's simple math, but that's really the case. So we are getting more efficient because we're not raising our charges or our costs as much as our charges are coming. And as long as there's a delta there on a go-forward basis, we'll be ahead of them. And borrowing money, if you will, from them.
Scott, we decreased surgery cases by 175, and overall we increased to 6.5%.
So 175 cases.
175, thank you.
That's good. Thank you for that. And all right, so that's
But
these.
it's still a 6% increase year
Yes.
over year.
Yeah, which is,
A realistic number.
and we have some new providers. We're filling holes that existed in 26. So these two affected our net patient revenue number as originally presented last month.
So make sure I understand this. It's the top one is we're getting less in commercial, and the next one is we're getting less or more in Medicare. Did I understand it right?
Not exactly.
Not exactly, but
The top one is a decrease
This is
in
overall.
either commercial or Medicare.
yeah, this is overall just decrease in volume
Yeah,
overall, not just
so it
Medicare.
could be
It
any,
could be any pay.
right.
Okay.
Now, this impacts our estimated volumes for Medicare only next year.
No. That
This
one
this
is
one
just the rate. So what
That's right.
Medicare is going to pay us now going forward
It's less.
is less.
So we don't know anything about the volume. We're expecting it at the same volume with less volume.
Well, we're budgeting 49, a ratio of 49% Medicare now. That's the assumption that we put in the budget.
So
That didn't change.
That didn't change.
again, our work with them, and they were very good to work with, but we took the $1.9 million down to $1.1 million, which is the agreed
So for the finance committee, that is hot off the press.
yesterday.
That happened what?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Scott reviewed their calculations. They told us 1.6. There was an error in their calculation. Now it's down to 1.1. And I told them to go back again and find another error.
I looked at this guy's name is Sean Boyer. He's the guy on the other end of the stick, and he's like, "Yep, you're right." So
800,000 is all you need to do.
Yeah. Okay,
okay, so
Wait, Scott, you got a question?
yes,
okay,
sir.
so here's my, my question is, this 300,000, 3 million, have you, because we've seen you guys, your cost reductions are gonna come up to 5 million. Is that factored in?
Yes.
Knowing the next rate adjustment, you're probably gonna get kicked in the face again? Is that in this $3 million?
Yeah, that's why we did it.
Okay.
Looking
So
forward,
that's all built in.
yeah, we
Our
look
cost
looking
reductions are
forward,
built in.
but
Yeah, it is the future kick in the face that we're talking about.
it's not, yeah, now that we know it though, we'll take an advanced reimbursement all day long, as long as we know and we're saving for it, because it is like they're advancing us more money. Well, it's like, you know, it's just like your personal taxes. If you have more withheld, you can get some back. Right? Or the other way around. Huh?
Interest-free loans.
Well, that's the way most hospitals look at it that are cost reimbursed.
That's the way I look
You
at it.
stay ahead of them. You don't want to be having to pay, you know, if you're paying them, that means that they're giving you money in advance, right?
Unless you're trying to build up big cash on hand.
Well, no, you can just, well, you can play that game if you want.
It's an interest.
Go ahead.
Okay, the other two items that affect revenue support or relate to, well, one, they relate to the
RHTF, I forgot.
Rural Health Transformation Fund.
Oh.
So between the board meeting last month and today, we've learned much, right, Mike? And all those who, we have now concrete numbers for what we have to do to qualify. We've estimated those. We know we qualify. We're waiting for next week when the doors are open for applications.
So let me add a little color to that. Mike, you can step into. So last board meeting, we made the decision, okay, so it's been approved, but we don't have any details about how much, when,
What do you have to do?
what do you have to do? There was just too many question marks to say, well, let's just put it in the budget just in case.
Well, we didn't put any in this 2.8
So we
million.
didn't. We didn't put anything in there. In the last 30 days, I'm putting about a 90% confidence level that these funds are going to be available to critical access hospitals in the state of Wyoming. And we know that they have to identify the needs for these funds by October 30th. When they pay out those funds, that's still a question mark. But there is a very, very high likelihood that we are going to be eligible and receive these monies. And so we're putting a conservative estimate of 2 million. We actually think it's higher than that, but we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And this is an important piece to our conversation about where EMS is going to go in the future. And we're going to have that conversation in the executive session.
That's good. So most of the funds relate, I mean, the lion's share that we could qualify for relate to EMS. So, and others would be the emergency department, our OBGYN practice, et cetera. So these are small, but we just allocated here, but this is in the new plan. Like Dan said, conservatively estimated. So you're going to scroll down here. Any other questions about the rural health transformation? And then we had some tweaks here that came in that we've just fine-tuned in the operating expenses, a little bit in the benefits, salaries, wages, and benefits, some other small things in other departments here, and a Fryman on interest expense. So we went from the 2.8, now our current operating plan proposed now has about a $230,000 revised net income. So that's the differences.
If we get the rural health care fund, otherwise it'll be a I mean, I get 90% confidence, but like, what would the plan be if we could?
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's always a plan B. So.
That is the EMS discussion.
Okay, so is there any further questions on this? In your package, you'll see full income, the results of operations, the income statement, if you will, that totals this, but this is what changed on it.
Oh, real quick, Scott, so this up here does not include the CMS adjustment because that's going to be booked in June, right?
This is to 2027.
But, so the 1.1 million that we're talking about is
That'll be booked in June.
in June, so it's not.
Well, we have, okay, so not to, blend year to year. This is 2027. The 2026, the interim rate adjustment that now is 1.1, we had $675,000 estimated, already accrued, estimated. And so that additional $400,000 will be accrued in our June books. So we did pretty good on our estimates. That 675 was, I thought, right on. And it was kind of right on the outpatient business. The inpatient business was the part that really was more than expected because our Medicare days just really accelerated between the end of February and May 31. And that lift, we did this for the same cost or volume. So anyway, that additional, we'll talk about that in our finance May results. But that, can't believe it. That's the reason we did this. Okay.
Any other questions for Scott? We're break even, 2027.
Cost
Slide now, Bob.
90% chance.
Yeah,
Oh. I don't know how to risk adjust that because we've never, in the last 3 years, we've put a budget in place and then something else happens, right? So, and really the predictability of what happens with, we can't control what type of patient walks through this hospital. And that's the hardest thing to manage. And then this retroactive review of whether you were underpaid or overpaid. And so this is a budget based off of the best information as of June 24th, 2026.
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
But, Mr. Chair, but to
Yes.
Clint's point, he's very astute to note that our anticipated pricing increase is going to be the lowest it's been in 3 years, right? So we had 22, last year it was like 15, and this year it will be 5. Going in, it's 5% on our managed care contracts, 5% aggregate. Some reductions, others, but an aggregate increase. So that will somewhat mitigate some of this spread between costs and revenue, but at the same time, we're going to be decreasing costs somewhat. So all that we've tried to boil together to have this estimate as close as we know.
The decision has just, we're talking about rates, so I want the board to know the decision has been made. We are actually going to reduce charges on some radiology procedures, namely mammography, as well as some therapy service charges. So there will be some reductions there.
you look at that by seeing what people are vacating the valley for and sending their crappy films back to us, or like how do you decide that? Mammography, that's like a courtesy.
Yeah, it's a multi-step process, but the first thing we do is look at the market.
Yeah.
You know, what are people charging for every single type of procedure out there, mammography. Then the second thing that we looked at is year over year, what happened to the volume within that. And it doesn't necessarily say for 100% surety, they're shopping that, but we do believe there's some elasticity with mammography, how much we're charging, and whether or not people are saying, I'm just going to go somewhere else because it is cheaper.
Yeah.
There's enough anecdotal information there to say we need to make that adjustment.
Yeah, and it wouldn't give you your whole number, but seeing how many requests we had to do from other providers.
Yeah.
But that's not really true because a friend busted her shoulder last week and we were taking the pictures here, which is recommended. It's small, I'm afraid to say it's broken. So maybe that would be well. Yes.
But of any type of information that we received where patients have said, where we have specific examples of, I can't afford that, or I need to look around.
Yeah.
We're taking a strong, hard look at reducing those.
The other thing, Dan, if I might add, that I think you implied this, but we only looked at really the change in the commercial volumes.
In the change, that's exactly,
Because
not the
Medicare doesn't
Medicare,
make
the change in the
any difference.
commercial.
Yeah. It's just because
Thank you for that clarification, Scott.
most Medicare folks are not shopping, but it's the commercial side of the business. So we looked at the change in volumes year over year, just the commercial, look at the pricing. So.
Yeah.
So Dan, you mentioned, you didn't know because last 2 years we put budgets together and we've had quite a range of business and stuff like that. In my mind, and this is just some food for thought down the road, but in my mind, the only way we get away from that is by building in some slush into the budget at some point. And in other words, it seems like that a lot of times we're like.
That's an interesting word.
Well,
Slush.
Contingency funds.
Slush fund?
You call it a lot of things, but,
Sandbagging,
well, we're putting in the budget right now, so we're essentially
Reserves.
relying on income with 90% your confidence rate. But, when we're relying on that in our operating budget, if that doesn't come through or something changes there, that really impacts our income. Things that we're not putting in there is the unforeseen. We don't have really anything. I mean, I understand that there's some estimates there to try to be conservative, but there's really not anything for the unforeseen expenses that come up. And so there's just, again, it'd be ideal, and I know that we can't always operate on the ideal, but if we put together a budget without having to rely on the 90% confidence on the update.
I think.
You don't think that's built into those two numbers on decrease of OR and the estimated MCR? I would assume
Yeah,
we have some
I think what I'm,
slush.
I think what I'm trying to do is I don't want the budget to be, I never want to give the impression that we're trying to pad the budget in any way, shape, or form, right? Like,
I don't think he thinks that. I think he thinks if we run
but
to a
that can't
concern,
happen.
our days cash on hand gets to zero.
That can't happen, right? So but I do believe that we adopt the principle of conservatism in creating a budget as long as the board and other stakeholders understand our assumptions.
Right.
And we could have a line item of, expense contingency or contractual contingency. We don't know how to account for that. It's not part of the, so you have to build it into each of the, each of the line items that you feel make sense. So I totally hear what you're saying, Cole, and it would be nice to say, well, we feel like we've got, I would love to be able to say to that, say that number, hey, we're going to hit that 200,000. I felt that way last year, and look where we're ending up right now, because of the payer mix.
I think where I'm trying to go with this is my comments more related to the fact that, we're putting in a budget. We have, let's take EMS, for example, that's in the budget right now, but we're relying on 90% confidence level of getting the rural healthcare transformation funds to get back to that $200,000. If we don't get that, we're underwater by that amount. So I think it's just something we all need to be aware of, conscious of, when we start making decisions going forward. Like, this is something that maybe we can account for this year, but it's not going to be something ongoing that people might, it may be, may not be after 5 years, who knows?
Yeah.
That type of thing, at what level or when we get paid. There's a lot of questions still remaining around it. I think that the only way to take out some of that variability is to have a little bit more room where you're not relying so much on that impact. I'm going to call for it.
Just well stated.
So Scott, your the loss in EMS is already factored in all this. At last year's, at the 2026 level?
The 2027 plan assumes a status quo operationally for EMS.
Dollars we save there,
That's
with us.
that's that's decisions we can make if those transformation dollars, like Dan said, we can talk about that a little later.
Even
That's,
if we got zero transformation dollars, any savings in EMS and other loss leaders could help.
they're not baked in.
Well, like to Abby's point, rural health transformation funds actually don't show up. You gotta have a plan B, right? And we need to talk about that plan B.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
there will be a deduction somewhere else, or a reduction. Okay. Okay, it's already baked in, so, okay. On this particular, anybody on the budget, and some other doc forms in there. My only other question was, in the year days, on page 19 of our packet, end of year days cash at hand 40.9, and then below that, well, that's with, if you add in the transformation funds, 1.5, then we get to 46. I see that note now. Thank you.
Okay.
I just answered my own question.
Do you want to just, I think it's important for the board to see that reconciliation of cash.
Cash flow?
Yep.
Okay.
You know, the finance committee recommended that we lead with this.
So you start with net income at 231. You add back depreciation, which is your non-cash expense in the 231. So the positive sources of cash are positive numbers, uses of cash are negative numbers. Our change in patient AR, we're planning, $2.4 million source of cash, which means the current receivable will go down about $2.5 million over the year. We generated from our receivable reduction this year much more than that. This is a continued from where we're at now, which is about 50 days in receivable down to like 45 days. Okay. This estimate here is from the 2024 cost report, which is in process and hopefully will be done in the next 2 weeks or so. And that's our estimate there, conservative, I hope. This is a cash usage of an amount that's accrued in our books and records now and the liabilities for a settlement with Change Healthcare. Now, this last week, we learned that the judge has kicked the can down the road a little bit further until July, where the two parties have to meet in his presence to mitigate, or to meet mediation, a forced mediation. But
You're assuming we're gonna pay what we owe.
we're going to pay it ever so slowly.
Well, that's a timing issue.
But
That's what the 900 is.
that's built in that by the end of the
What
year,
they billed us, basically.
worst case, that we'll have to pay that, fess it up. This changed yesterday. Okay, this is now 1.1, not 1.6. But that's due to Medicare. We'll settle up with that right now, or in July. We'll have reductions in our AP and accruals of about 500,000. There's some other accruals that will be made and paid off. And then other changes in current assets and liabilities, the smaller ones, prepaids and other, will increase those a little bit based on our volumes. This is our so we'll generate about 8.3 plus 4, so about 8.3 from operations. Then we spend that in debt service. We put a estimate into the plan for $2 million worth of CapEx, very discretionary, and on prioritized basis, and as cash is available. You saw this on the income statement. This is cash in just from the transformation dollars. This is our estimate of continuing to fund the losses at our imaging center.
So let me ask a question on that. So is that 100% of the imaging center loss?
Yes.
But we're only 50% in.
Yeah, worst case.
So you're,
That's a slush. Cool, that's slush right there.
there you go, 400, 500,000. No. So that is 100, we're putting on our books,
It's not 100%. They are producing something, but this is
but that's the expected loss, 100% of the loss
that we're funding.
we're funding. So
No,
is
no.
anybody else funding anything?
Yeah, themselves, they have some contribution to,
But from operations?
Yeah.
We're-
But there's no
we're funding
limited
as
part-
an investor though.
yeah, no other investor participation is assumed at this point.
And, okay, I guess we ought to talk about that later.
Well, we could do that. So the changing cash is 3.6. This is where we're at today. So there's the ending cash. The operating expense per day is, in your plan our plan is about $290,000 per day. We get you to 40. Now, if we got more of this here, this became 4, this would be like 46. You're just gonna do the math.
So your days cash on hand calculations, you've already recalculated the expense per day based on the new budget?
Yeah, just take the new budget, take the operating expense, divide it by 365, there you go.
How's the bank calculating that? Is it trailing 12 months?
Same.
Yeah, it's always trailing 12 months operating expenses. So this is the trailing 12 months ended June 30, 2027. Currently, we're just hovering around 300,000. This will take that, I mean, there's about that's about 10,000 plus or minus dollars per day that we're anticipating in our operating expense, our cash operating expenses.
Does that, sorry.
You got a call? Okay.
So that's assuming that we get the rural healthcare transformation funds before June 30th next year, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is
So,
correct.
and there is a chance that we don't get them.
There is a remote chance
October?
that those would happen in the next fiscal year.
Because it basically they have 12 months to October.
That's exactly right.
Allocated things.
Yep. There is that possibility.
So we have from October to June, you got 8 months that we think we could get the money in, but there's still a 4 month on the other side of June 30, 2027 that, yeah.
And how much are you calculating again as far as your per day expense?
If you do the math, it's, I don't know exactly, it's like
300, right?
287,000.
So basically you'd be about 6 less days.
But yeah, that's.
Yeah, just take this number here and divide it by
300.
300
Yeah,
or
Ronald
290,
kind of was
whatever.
leading
Yeah,
with
so
that
you're gonna
question.
be 6, a little over 6, so we'd be actually at
Page
34,
19.
34 days.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question though.
I have a question.
I see on the other hand, Abby
Yeah,
was
do
next.
do we reconcile with Medicare usually by June 30th before fiscal year? Well, my big question is, the assumptions we made for the 3 million on page 17 that you could run us through the report summary, is that a new 3 million, or is it because we have carryover to pay the 1.1 and then what we assume we're gonna owe? You know what, am I asking a question?
I don't understand the
Poorly.
question.
Okay,
The $3 million
yeah,
represents what we anticipate in 2027,
okay.
the reduction in net revenue.
Have we settled with Medicare multiple times in
Yes.
one fiscal year?
Yeah.
So when you give me the 3 million, that's
Reason twice.
multiple.
Well,
twice.
we settled kind of 3 times.
Okay,
We settled after we settled after we did the 2025 cost report. There's an amount either they owe us or we owe them.
Okay.
We knew that we owed them, right?
yeah,
Then in February, they did their first rate review for the 2026 year.
Yeah.
Based on our actual volumes from July through February. And their high level said, hey, you owe us 700,000.
yep,
We paid that. Then they did a second rate review for 2026, which we just talked about. And we used the May numbers. So we're almost like, we're using the second ones through 11 months, right? And this is where the 1.1 comes in. So for 2026, we've already paid them 700,000 plus the 1.1, that'd be $1.8 million. That we're ahead of them. They're reimbursing us more than our
yeah, I get it.
and so we'll have one finally, Abby. So next week is our end of the year. We'll prepare the fiscal 26 cost report
Uh-huh.
in probably September.
Yeah.
And then we'll know if there's an amount. There's likely we still will owe an amount, hopefully small, because we've already paid 2 big lump sums into that total for the 26 year. So let's say that we owed them I don't know, say we owed them another 300,000 or something like that, based on just what June is basically, what's gonna happen in June. You know, our utilizations. It should not be a whole lot though. We've basically done a cost report at a very high level, you know, without doing the cost report to estimate through May, this is what we owe them at 1.1.
Yeah,
So
that's clear. Now, help me with this piece. We got our new number, it's 1.1. The end of the fiscal year is coming up on June 30th. We're not paying it by June 30th.
now, when we get their final demand letter, they call it, which will be, it could be, while I'm sitting in this meeting, it could be tomorrow, it could be Monday. I don't know. It'll be soon. The next couple of days, we'll get a demand letter and they'll say, okay, here is
We'll
it.
pay you.
And
Work up.
they'll give us like 15 days from that date of that letter. That's what they give us, 15 days.
It'll most likely be paid.
And
Yeah,
for
so
sure it will be
that's-
paid.
We'll have already
That's
accrued
what
it.
I'm trying to figure.
We'll have already accrued it in the June numbers.
Yeah,
That's,
Then it
the
just.
payment-
cash
the
goes
payment
out
will be-
door.
that's okay. Even though we haven't paid it,
Right.
we've accrued it, and this is a different number. I don't have to assume like we also have
1.1
1.1 from
is-
2026.
no,
over-
it's already on the balance sheet as a liability right now. So it's a good question.
See if I need to add another 1.1 million on that number.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
So really my question was, even though we haven't paid, we've accrued for it.
Yeah, we accrued 600,000. No, I'll add another 450,000. So, okay,
So
good question.
on CMS, so we also in 2026 went back and looked at 2024
And that,
and we got a positive reimbursement from them.
2025 we did, 2024 we're
We
finishing
haven't
that
done 24. So 2025, we got a positive reimbursement.
$1 million.
It's already into this year's cash.
That came in since we last met,
Okay.
by the way.
And next year, we're planning to do a 2024 review, and we may get additional cash back. Has that been?
Yeah, you saw that on the cash flow statement. We're anticipating that it'll be, let's say if they complete that, the 2024 cost report by the 15th of July, just whatever. It'll be probably 45 days from then when we get the cash
This is on the 2024
Right.
amendment.
which is gonna most
You say
likely.
that's already in our 2027 cash flow?
Yeah, you can see it on, as a separate line item.
Oh, the 750?
Yeah.
Due for Medicare. Thank you.
Half of that is just bad debt that we didn't claim. Okay,
Other questions on budget? I assume you want to also then talk about, and as a presentation in the public hearing, the CapEx budgets, since we also have to approve it, that it's part of this hearing, right? So any presentation you want to make, explain why we're spending the 2.4, 5.
well, why we're spending it? We haven't spent it. Why we're planning?
Why we're planning.
Okay, we have, this is just a high level summary. Each of you got this in your packet with the detail by category prioritized by A, B, and C, and then a TBD. So there's like 4 categories. A few of these were not yet prioritized or calendarized. So in your packet, if you want to, there's one page for all the A items, one page for all the B items, one page, you can see that. Be glad to look at the larger ones in each of these categories. That kind of give you, where 80% of the dollars are going. If you look at the 2 or 3 at the top of each one of those lists to get a feel for what we believe is most necessary. The $2.5 million total is. Now, whether we spend all of that or some of it, we generally don't spend all of it, but if we had a really good cash year, we get some more transformation dollars, we may, but it's all going to be based on, predicated on when we need it and the cash is available. And we don't want to finance anything as much as we can, don't need to. So is there any questions on any of those?
What was the request? We've never had 2.5 for last 10 years in cap.
You mean it's half what we used
It's been
to?
usually around 5 and growing. Am I correct?
I can't speak to,
Prior to your time, I agree. But prior to that, it just kept rising. And last year was 5 something?
Yeah, I think it's,
Why do we think we can get by on 2.5?
well,
Does it have to?
no, we're certainly not in that growth phase.
Yeah,
we're
not expanding services.
We're not expanding services, we're not needing to do, now,
Alpine's over,
well,
all
what the 2.5 is mostly going to be is, that's exactly right.
I'm nervous about things.
You know,
Roofs and things.
yeah, the roof is on the
the,
A
just look at
list.
the top, look at the A list, top 3 items.
Yeah.
Look at it.
So,
The
so
roof is the top
I
one.
would say that is probably the primary driver and the fact that, you know, we've had to reset expectations internally in the organization saying, hey, we've got to build our reserves back up. So we have to be extraordinarily careful on any capital item that we spend money on. So I think the combination of those two things is the reason why we're seeing a $2 million request.
So what was the beginning request number?
That number.
From the whole outfit, they said we don't want to spend.
Well,
Just-
minus
And
the
you guys usually
helipad.
reduce
Well,
it
oh yeah, okay.
3 million, so let me,
So there were 2
let me
items.
understand the process, has it changed?
No, we had, every request was very well documented.
Okay.
Every one of those has a small package, a larger package that says, here's why we need it, here's what we need, here's the vendor, here's justification, whatever.
Yeah.
The 2 things that we did take off was a helipad in Alpine. And what was the other one, Mike? It was some parking, it was some asphalt.
Additional parking.
In Alpine, paving and additional parking. So those 2 were kind of taken off. I think combined is about $500,000. No, one of them was 300,000 for the helipad.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand what you're saying, the original request from all staff was just above 2 point, was
2.5
two
plus,
parking plot, a helipad and a parking asphalt
or, yeah.
above this number.
Is the temporary
That's
helipad
interesting.
functioning okay?
And usually it's 2 or 3 times what we end up
Do you
with.
know from like last year's CapEx, like, not that it's really my business, but if it is my business to answer this, what projects did get done from, like, we had A, B, and C last year.
We have a lot of projects and we,
Did most
We
of
have-
them roll into this year's?
no, I can't make that general.
Okay.
Some
That's
did,
fine.
some did. The roof was on the budget last year.
As
Thank
an A.
goodness for a mild winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it's okay, we're not leaking, but it's on a clock, we know
Yeah.
that.
Then it becomes a top 8.
Another big one that was on a clock because we didn't have, we couldn't repair it, with parts, it's becoming very unavailable, was our boiler system. And it's right now, we're finishing that up, and that's a little bit,
Gotcha.
that's a big one.
That's enough of an answer.
Would you like to see a
Not really.
list of what was actually purchased?
Not
and
really.
purchased?
I'm
Sure that's available.
well, I think the roof was scheduled to be done and then we were like, oh, we can defer, so we defer.
Well, if, you know,
And things were quite crazy. I just kind of, I do feel like I see it, it's back on top of the priority. It's still in the A's.
Trevor, isn't it scheduled? The roof?
Russ had scheduled last year, and then we decided to hold off.
I've already told Russ to get it done.
Yeah, so did I. So, I mean, I think we're on the same page. I thought he was getting that.
So here's
I don't.
Marlo, I think just for the sake of, so that the board knows that there is a rhythm to the capital. We did have this discussion in the finance committee, and on a quarterly basis, we're planning on providing a list of those projects were accomplished, and then we can easily, then the board can see that in the minutes. Does that suffice?
Does that help?
That works.
Great, yep.
Well, the first number just surprises me, so that, somebody's got the message, we gotta look finally at the details on CapEx.
Oh, not, we had that
But
message.
gross, the big,
Once we, a year and a half ago, once we had the issue with, our Epic and our accounting system and 3.5 million, that put the brakes on everything, right?
I remember that, yes.
Okay, and so that's when we really said, okay, we are no longer in a growth phase. That's when the growth phase stopped. we are in a preservation mode that we've got to make sure that we've got some pathway forward for strong financial viability. And we're still not out of it. We thought we would recover a little bit this year, but again, the payer mix headwind has been our biggest challenge over these last 6 months. So now, for the last 18 months, everybody in the organization knows, guys, we're not growing anymore. We have to really focus on any dollar that we spend on capital has just got to be justified.
But I'm not sure our previous capital budgets were growth.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, they were
We
the
were
big
adding
dollars.
specialties. We
We
were
were a big wish list.
Yeah, but we, you know, I mean, all the specialties, the equipment, everything that we needed in order to support these specialties, that was really the
I have to
driver.
run with it.
Yeah, we can.
No, you don't have to. I can. Thank you. Any other questions on CapEx for this year? Now, I noticed in the cash flow, you're only spending 2 million of that instead of 2.5.
A and B items.
And then if we do better on our estimates, or, you know, we get lower estimate than what we said, maybe we can get. C's can become B's if they set on dollars for next year, right? Just by virtue of time, or they,
I'm sorry.
C's can become B's, like just ask to take into account this career.
I think the criteria that we put in place is A's are usually either patient safety or, you know, just operational necessity. B's have elements of that, but there might be a significant return on investment, and then C's are more of like.
And if we had extra money, that'd be cool.
That'd be nice to have, yeah.
That, right? No questions.
Any other questions?
Just one more comment. The priority generally has been the facility, like overall, but each practice, it's to have safety as a priority, patient safety, you know, and our ability to generate revenue. Those are the priority items.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, like I said, the parking lots, okay, we can deal with parking lots and we can defer that, but the equipment that would impact patient safety and our ability to generate revenue are the priority items.
Okay, anything else you want to present during the budget hearing? Do we have any public comments for the budget?
No public comment.
No public comment. Does that mean there's no
I think you have
problem?
to cry 3 times, and not even joking. Don't you have to ask 3 times for public comment? Yeah,
That's right.
go for it. 3 times.
I'm not gonna ask for that.
Hear ye, is that what you have to say?
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Any public comment?
Oh, it's the
No.
law?
It really is. I remember from last year.
One more.
Right, Dale?
Yeah, from debate and.
Yeah.
Didn't you hear it? I
All
already said
that
those
debate.
two.
No, we need to hear it. We need to hear it loud and clear.
It was right with that first one. I just tripled it.
Yes, sir.
You've got a problem with authority, you need to work on that, right?
I don't know about whether we need to work at it, but yes. Any other comments on the budget or the cap budget?
Twice.
You say going once, going twice, 3 times sold.
They said I gotta say it 3
Oh,
times,
do you?
not just spell it 3 times. Any other comments? Third comments? And by the way, are there any fourth comments?
Well, that's excessive.
I'm gonna exceed the expectations.
Wow, yeah.
All right. Without any public comments, I would close the public hearing portion of this budget hearing. Now, let's see. We need to vote on this. Is that planned right now, or are we doing that during finance?
Fine for now. Unless you want to
Is
do
there
it.
anything we're gonna hear in finance that would cause us not to wanna vote now? And I think I'm looking for a motion to approve, the operating and the capital budget. Now, the strategic framework, we haven't discussed that yet. Is that a public hearing?
No, I think that's just,
Yeah, I'm gonna separate
Just strike
that. Right now, I'm looking for a motion on just operating and capital. If you want to split that into two motions, I don't have any problem. We need to approve our 2027 fiscal year operating and capital budgets.
Something in mind about, depending on the motion.
I don't even know what the strategic, well, I mean, I know
We're
what
not doing
strategic,
the
we're not
strategic
doing
part.
that now.
Strategic is not right now.
Just
We'll
the
talk
capital
about
and
it.
So I'll make a motion to approve the final fiscal year 2027 operating and capital plan budget.
I'll second. Moved by Abby and seconded by Jeff to approve both the fiscal year 2027 operating budget and the capital budget, capital plan budget. Any further discussion on those two? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Strategic framework, do you want to discuss that now? You need a motion on that?
Well, you said that it was never approved.
You did say that. You said that
When did I say that?
last
Today?
month. Or no, at the retreat at Frontier. That we've never approved it.
I don't think we need to approve it, but if you want to approve the strategic plan, we can, but I'm suggesting we approve the pillars of the strategic plan. If you want me to approve the strategic plan, then I gotta know a lot more details about the whole plan. And I don't think that's our job to approve the whole strategic plan, but
Which is the
Framework.
pillars.
framework.
Framework.
That's my opinion. You guys may have.
I think it's acceptable. Great idea. So
So I think on page 25
it is 25.
is the, and Dan, you want to speak to that briefly or non-briefly?
It hasn't, it's been the strategic framework for quite some time. So this is not, it's not unfamiliar with, I think, the members of the board. All of our agendas, everything that we talk about is aligned within one of those pillars. And all of the initiatives and goals associated with the organization fall into those pillars. So that's what I would say.
The pillars are the 4 or 5 of
Third
them
line
at the
down.
top, right? Loyal patience, service line,
Yep.
best people and culture, operational excellence, fabric of the community. The initiatives are below that. Those are all general things, and then you have more specific items and
That we're working on
Detailed
a
plan.
daily basis that then move from strategic to operational once we've accomplished that.
And is this board wanting to have a review of that more detailed about every quarter or so, or once a year, or never?
Me personally, no. That's just an opinion. It's here. Because like this can be fluid, right? You guys can change this down here. That's for you.
We could, but we try to be as consistent as we possibly can. I think that what we would like to do, what we probably could have done a better job of this past year is just make sure that the board on a regular, has regular updates on how we're doing in relation to our goals.
Maybe in your
Quarterly, maybe.
CEO report.
Yep.
Quarterly.
Yep.
I think that's.
And then you can see how it aligns with pillars and you can ask questions about that.
Yeah.
That will be part of my CEO report next month at the end of the fiscal year. But I think that we did miss some opportunities to have those discussions for various reasons.
You want to go
Any
with the
comments?
I'm satisfied with what you suggested, that we've seen and improved the pillars and the rest of the goals that are below it is management.
So I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair,
We're open for a
to
motion on
approve the
strategic.
framework of the Star Valley Health strategic framework. Approve it as it is.
It's shown on page 25. Okay. Second?
But yes.
Moved by Abby, seconded by Mindy to approve the framework of the strategic plan, 2027 fiscal year, correct? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. You catch up. Chief of Staff, see return.
We got a couple phone calls.
When he comes back, let me know, whoever sees him. And we'll come back to that. I don't remember seeing him written. Oh, did I? Yeah, okay, I did this one. All right, consent agenda. Anybody want to pull anything out of the Bill Smith district and discuss them or our financial position as of May?
Yes,
31st?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions I'd to pull out about the finance bills page.
Okay,
Would you like to pull out? All the Epic refunds, seems like a lot, and
why don't
then,
we why don't you ask those questions right now before we move on to consent agenda?
okay. I just had a question going through the bills, there's a lot of Epic refunds, and I just wondered why there's so many.
In the normal course of any hospital, there are refunds, patients and payers, number of circumstances. Every month, there's a lot of them. This month, there's only a total of 27,000, but
There were a lot.
those every week.
Dollars?
So every time that Epic, we have every week that there's a credit balance due to a customer, for sure, patients first, then that flips to AP. And the dollar amounts are very small.
Most of them, yeah.
So when it says Epic refund, is that to Epic?
No, it's
To a
Ah.
You
patient.
didn't change that. It comes out of the Epic system, feeds AP, and we issue a check.
It's going to usually a patient. Probably 90%.
Can you give an example of why that happens?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's an overpayment.
Like they got a bill and they paid on it and then one more thing processed?
That's why they're so small. They're
Yeah, it's dollars.
It's like the timing of deductibles,
Yeah.
you know, at a different facility that, you know, here
So,
we ask for
There's
it.
a lot of different reasons. We don't try to get them, but it's a normal, every hospital should have credits. And we want to get the patient the money back.
Yeah, and there's a rule on that, right?
There's a rule on that one. So the rev cycle team, they'll work that, and as soon as there's a credit determined, elevated, you know, it spits out and goes to AP automated. And so, I mean, she can talk about the detail, how it gets there, but it's a weekly part of our payroll, or excuse me, AP run. There's a lot of it.
yeah, there's a
We'll
lot.
change it's a patient refund, it's not.
Yeah,
It's-
it
it's
used to be
part of-
called patient refund, but now it says Epic, so that's why I was wondering,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, they have to do it at least 3 times.
I don't know. And then, I also had a question on CodeQuick. Looks like we paid them to almost $214,000 last month. What is CodeQuick doing for us? Because that's almost a day, you know, cash on hand. I'm just wondering how much we're, you know, I know how much we're getting, but, per day, but it just seems like a lot that we're paying for. What does CodeQuick do?
There were several invoices, a couple of months worth of disputed items. So we finally resolved those. What they do for us is they collect commercial or AR over 90 days. So they do, as soon as it hits the 90-day, falls into their bucket, and those are generally the tougher ones to collect.
Yeah, like we were gonna write them off
And we
anyway.
don't pay them unless they collect them.
So if we paid them to
Yeah.
something that maybe.
Then how much did we collect?
400,000
Yeah.
or?
It's
300,000.
average
Average is about 50 a month.
50, the percentage of a dollar, I think it's around,
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's
you could
around
assume that.
15% of a dollar. It's over.
They receive 15% and we get.
And we get the rest? Okay, that was,
We pay them, they don't take it out or anything, you know, they collect it, and each month we report on what they collected, review it, scrutinize it, argue with it,
okay.
and eventually we'll be fair with the contract we have. But our goal as a team is to limit that amount. that
Yeah,
goes
not
into
let
our
things
budget.
roll to the bad debt portion that we're letting and things like that.
So
But that payment does mean we brought a lot of income in.
Sure.
Right, that's what I was
just
thinking,
divide that
The more we pay,
It
the more
sounded
we
like a
receive.
service we were using. I thought
That we weren't.
Code Quick
yeah.
was like, oh, we're missing these, low-lying fruit charges.
No, anything over 90 days are a primary
Okay.
farm.
I guess I've just never heard, sorry, I've never heard the explanation of what they actually do.
Well, and
So I
maybe-
appreciate that.
Mindy, it's a great question.
Yeah. And
Don't
maybe it's like
apologize, that's a great
100,000
question.
normally, yeah. but-
We're trying to use them as little as possible.
Because Code Quick to me means, oh, you put the wrong code in, okay, we're gonna fix that real fast.
Well, to that point though,
Part of the-
we do use Code Quick as a second layer of coding.
About half of our coders are Code Quick
Yep.
contract. They are paid by, the work that they do, right? Not,
So there is an element of coding that Code Quick
that
does.
they're good coders.
Okay.
They're very good help to our team.
Yeah, it's still worth bringing up.
Right.
Because it was a big lump.
No, it's a great question.
That shows you, we don't just pay the bills when it comes, we take our time, and that these are invoices which we disputed.
Thank you, I appreciate the explanation, that helps, thank you. I think those were the only two questions I had, so.
So did you reorder these? Used to be the largest was at the top. Have we gone away from that? Well, I agree we have the summary, but in the detail, is it still, it's not largest at the top?
We will do that from now on. That was just an
Oh, sorry,
oversight.
Marlo, I did have one more question.
Please.
Right now, it's by date, so.
Oh, okay.
So employee housing, we paid 53.5 last month, is that right? It says 2 months, but then it says we got reimbursed 16,000. So that seems like a lot that we're paying out each month and only getting reimbursed 16.
That reimbursement was for 1 month,
Okay, but the 53 was for what?
2 months. So we paid the landlords, right?
Okay,
Generally it's due on the first of the
first
month.
of, yeah.
Now, we may cut the check on the 28th so they can get it on the first, or we could cut it on the first so they get it on the third. Just, we cut checks on Thursday, Friday. So that's a timing difference, but the 16,000, if you look back over time, that's about how much we get reimbursed by the employees that are
Every month.
every month. Comes out of the paycheck.
23. So you've got about 7,000 that we're paying just to hold
Just the whole.
units?
No, it's more than that, but.
Well, not.
No, 8, I figured.
About 8, yeah.
Yeah, but that's that.
She can help me address this.
Please.
Yeah, we have someone actually in Trevor's area that manages our employee housing, and she has a spreadsheet. So everything that we are expensing, we are getting reimbursed 100% for. There's a few areas where we're not, like, if there's like EMS housing, or we have some clinical staff that are coming into, that need a place to stay because they're working for a couple of days, but that's very, very minimal. But we do have that tightly controlled. I think it's just timing of the payments and the payroll deductions. Payroll deductions are just bi-weekly.
It's a pass through, so we don't mark up the rent to market per se.
Right,
If we're paying a landlord X.
that's what you're charging the.
So the difference is buildings that we're paying ourselves, rent the house somebody.
Yeah.
Like.
That come in once in a while.
EMS is a good example.
Or on call down and out.
Okay. Okay, that's, okay, thank you. Okay,
Other questions on?
Sorry.
Another great question, Mindy.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I had that same question, and it was, and it's a 2 month, so.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Anything else? Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion for our consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Moved by Clint to approve. A second. Seconded by Cole. Then moved and seconded, we approve the consent agenda as written. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Hospital discount policy. I assume we're gonna have a explanation of changes from last month, or we held this over a month. It was 2 months ago we started this.
Yeah, you wanted to see
You've
the,
never seen this, though.
Right, we've never seen the actual
Fine.
policy.
yeah, we never,
Right.
so we've reviewed this, ran it through the policy committee, reviewed it with the finance committee, and we have bifurcated it into people that don't have insurance versus do have insurance, how it's applied, examples of how it's applied. And this allows us to consistently make, just if it's ever questioned, we have a policy to follow, and then people can judge whether or not we're consistently following that.
Any, are you reporting on this?
We discussed it. We just didn't
Okay, you want to make that recommendation? Out of your report? Thanks.
Can I ask one question? I mean, I don't
We're
want
gonna
to,
have him,
oh,
just discuss this policy, what the finance committee discussed and their recommendation, and we'll take your question.
sounds good, somebody answer it.
So we just went over and discussed the policy in length, and there was a couple changes. I think the one was 50% discount was, or I think that was the number before, went to a 60% discount already uninsured, paid prior to surgery. Or prior, I said surgery, prior to whatever
Whatever happens.
Outside that, we did have some discussion on what was being funded now, and we need some follow up on that. And so we got something to compare to down the road. The concern that got brought up was, is there any unforeseen consequences for this policy being put in place? So basically, we want a baseline that we can go off of and have get reported back to our parliament or follow up on after the changes happen, to see if there's any unforeseen consequences that we didn't recognize initially. So we just wanted to monitor that on a going forward basis. And outside of that, we felt like it was good policy and wanted to recommend for.
Additionally, if you don't mind, both, the consensus was if we do recognize that there are unintended consequences or we're shooting ourselves in the foot, just change the policy.
Right.
Just adjust it.
Just to be on the record for saying this, love it. I'm the type that will take advantage of discount or pay, if I know my bill in advance, I would definitely take advantage of that, and I would have paid my bill in full anyway. I think that's the concern you have,
Yeah,
correct?
it is. It is.
But if you can capture a handful that we're never gonna pay anyway, that will pay because of discount, it does make sense.
Yeah, it's our, I guess this is our only avenue, especially with people with insurance, for us to do the counter argument of we're too expensive.
Yeah.
This is the only way.
Yeah. Because I'll look at what my insurance paid and what my reduced cost is, I'm still paying golf more than.
Yeah.
I won't feel bad about it. But I would be more likely to come here if I'd like the dollar, end of the day dollar amount.
The other thing that the board needs to know is we're about to publish new good faith estimates. So we have learned that our system can generate two distinct good faith estimates. One is a good faith estimate that meets this policy's requirements for the uninsured. And then on the good faith estimate for the people that are insured, the only thing that will be listed is their deductible that they owe and their co-insurance and the amount that comes out of their pocket. We're not listing charges, we're not listing, it is just here, and then it's going to state, in addition to this, you have the opportunity to get a 30% discount or a 20% discount. Here's the number that you should call if you have any questions, but this is we're going to give you a good faith estimate just based off of contract and how much you owe.
Any?
I have a question. So if somebody's already met their deductible, this system goes in, I think we've talked about this, but this system goes in and says, okay, they've already met their deductible, so that's gonna show on this good faith estimate, they've already met it. and
Yeah,
this is
so
what they
it'll-
have.
Actually, no. I got tonsillectomies, and so they didn't send me the date because I followed up with her. I was like, I was asking you that, but we did it after we knew we met our deductible. This was in October, and I said, what's the policy? We didn't get a good faith estimate. I think I have now correctly. And she told me it's our policy to not do that if it's.
No, we will do that.
You will now?
Yep.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
So
Because I was just
it'll show on the
It'll
good,
go into my insurance and say, okay, Mindy's already met her $2,500.
so it'll show on your good faith
Okay.
estimate, deductible, 0.
Okay,
Co-insurance, there might be something
Yeah,
with co-insurance, right?
and this is your portion of
And this,
what-
and this is your
Okay.
portion going into it.
Okay. I think that's great, yeah.
So good. Yeah. Are you doing that hospital-wide or like a couple of specialties?
So the only exceptions is it does not apply to the care center,
Yeah, we saw that.
and it doesn't apply to the imaging center because that's just totally separate. So, but.
But there is reduction in cost there anyway.
But hospital-wide,
Yeah.
outside of those two areas, the policy applies.
That's so successful.
But we're gonna find out because we are also, we now have in place one of our goals.
What's the report you're pulling to know the baseline? Like, what does that look like? How hard is that?
It's not, it won't be hard. Go ahead.
So Clint brought up a question in the committee. We got the
What was it
answer.
called?
Such,
Was it called, it was both coal and
He
fines.
said, what percentage of?
Yeah, it was a good
every
question. It
dollar
was-
Of uninsured
uh-huh.
are we collecting today?
That-
So over the past 12
Yeah.
months, 18 cents on every dollar.
Mhm. See, that is cool. That is a great
So
number
we
to
watch
know.
that each month, and see
Yes.
if that goes up.
Yeah.
Because there's more incentive. to pay.
Right, but at the same token, you have a year to look back on, so you say 18 on the dollar, but it might have taken umpteen months to
We're
collect
just gonna
that.
look back on a trailing 12
Oh,
months.
okay, it's
every
awesome.
month.
It's apples to apples.
So then you can see
I
if
love that.
that's ineffective.
Bravo. Whoever brought the question up. Very good.
So on your good faith estimates, are you not maybe going to be accused as to not being transparent on what the costs were? All we give them is what they owe us?
Well, so we could. I'm not saying that we're not gonna be accused. What's your definition of cost?
Right, my cost and Jeff's cost and
Or a
Margaret's are
line
very
item? I mean,
different.
It's,
Previously, it was a line item, here's the procedure, the pill.
yeah, the good faith estimate is basically to help them understand how much they owe. And so now that's totally different. We have different, requirements for uninsured. We have to show them the discounted cash price, which is an automatic 30%.
Mhm.
We have to show that. So that's why we're doing two separate good faith estimates, one for insured, one for the uninsured.
And will people, I know we can't entice people with insurance to pay cash price. Unless it's November or like December 18th of the year.
This was brought up in the finance.
I know,
committee, too.
I saw that in the notes and I'm like, I'm so on the same page, but, can't entice them, but they would get two perfect estimates. And they can make that decision themselves. They might opt to go cash.
I think that they could.
Because if nothing else has been done in that calendar year.
Yep.
Anything under $5,000 would be like a yes for me.
So that was part of the consequences we were talking about.
Is it a consequence? Because I'm a cash payer, you got the money.
It is, but a smaller amount. So you may have gotten money early, but you got this amount instead of this amount. Discounted more, was discounted every year.
So-
you're-
Yeah.
What you're saying is that if I'm an insured person, I can come in and get a estimate for paying cash.
Yes, you can.
You would never do
If
that.
you want to go
because you're
outside of
smart and you
insurance
have
and you don't want
It's
to,
my choice.
it's your choice. Yep.
Sometimes-
So here's some simple math. Let's say there's $100,000 of charges for an elective surgery. Just using round numbers here. Under the pay in full, uninsured cash discount price, you would still have to come up with $40,000. If you're insured and your deductible is $7,000, $10,000, and you haven't met it's towards the end of the year, which one's going to be cheaper?
Insurance.
With my insurance
Still
bill.
the insurance,
Yeah.
right? So I guess it all depends on the facts and circumstances and the scenario, what the person's trying to
Yeah.
accomplish, but
It's gonna be so.
But I don't think we're gonna run into too many problems with the uninsured policy losing its money because of the, still those deductibles.
I don't either.
I think it's gonna
you
have,
a
I think it's
better
gonna have to
chance of
be
capturing-
something small dollars. It's gonna have to be something small dollars in order for us to,
It's gonna be something that's underneath that.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
That's exactly the.
So that's the big takeaway that I think the board needs to understand.
And honestly, if it's February, if you haven't any fiscal year, you get to get it, and you know you've got the rest of the year, so it's really the month of October, it's like the last quarter. That we're in something. Yeah. Well, I'm optimistic.
Which, when you look at it that way, I look at it as you're gonna have a better chance of catching that business.
Yeah,
And
I
then
would
you're
have gone
like,
somewhere
okay,
else.
I can actually afford that, and not
Yep.
even use my insurance. Yes, I'm gonna do it versus I'm just gonna kick it down the road.
Okay, we had a recommendation, I believe, from our finance committee on this policy to approve. I'm looking for a motion. We need to have a motion to approve this policy or change.
So we just need to say he doesn't want him.
So I make a motion that we approve the hospital discount policy as presented.
Second.
Moved by Clint, seconded by Mindy to approve Star Valley Health discount policy, hospital discount policy, 2026. And any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Will they be sharing that, it's 18 cents on the donor collection, will they be talking about that in finance committee monthly?
Yeah, the finance committee requested that. They're a tough group too.
They are, there was a 3-hour meeting this month.
It's,
Or-
At least, yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's.
So sorry.
Okay, finance committee and construction committee report. Oh,
Yeah, so we talked about,
just changed, not Jeff this time, it's Paul. You can let Jeff do it. We're happy, we'd love to hear from you.
no, we discussed a lot of what I was gonna talk about in here. So, obviously, we met, reviewed improvements from the previous month. We reviewed and discussed self-payment, manager policy, came up with a recommendation. Scott presented the financial reports, as they are included in the packet, and provided a breakdown. This is something that we haven't seen in the past necessarily, but a breakdown separating the hospital operations from the foundation, imaging center, care center, and EMS, depending on whether you're looking at the balance sheet or the income statement. You see the different columns there that they have. What it shows, it does show that the hospital, the base hospital operations does show a 1.59 service coverage ratio covenant, or service coverage ratio by itself. The other thing it kind of points out is it shows and highlights the EMS care center and imaging center being drag on cash flow. There's reasons we can discuss further at another point in time, the reasons why, but it does show that EMS is above the $2 million the loss for the year. Care center, I think, is at 1.7, and imaging center is at 800. So they do impact our cash flow pretty heavily. The balance sheet wise, patients, we talked about this earlier as well. The patient accounts actually went up based on the stuff that we were talking about, the disbursements, what the stuff that's owed back. My understanding was we went ahead and accrued or grossed the accounts receivable up, and also accrued for it on as accounts payable. So you'll see those adjustments on there. We also, there was a shift in how restricted cash was reported, moving it from the cash line item to the other long-term assets. So that move is primarily restricted cash. At the end of the month, we were seeing a 25 days cash on hand, or sitting at 25 days cash on hand. The PACE report does show that we're up to about 28 and a half days. So as of hot off the press, we're at 30 days as of today. So very, very positive improvement since the end of the month, or end of last month. Income statement wise, there was some true up in contractual deductions again that helped contribute to the $900,000 monthly loss. The Medicare mix was at 50% at the end of May. Year to date, we're showing a $3.7 million loss through the end of May. Essentially, the one takeaway that one point on this that I took away was the year-to-date number. We're getting really tight on our margins and as far as where we're at. As far as whether we include, just look at just the hospital, include EMS, care center, maybe imaging center, all that. We're getting really tight on our margins and our debt service charge ratio. Basically, we reviewed the disbursements on the district and talked about. We also talked about and reviewed the operating plan, the CapEx. We've already talked about that in depth, so I'm not going to go into that. We did talk about the operating expense reduction. So the board, we talked about this last month. We would like to have a report on a monthly basis on how we're doing. So going forward in July, the Finance Committee is going to see a report compared to baseline estimates. And we'll just be able to compare it on a monthly basis, how we're doing, where our successes are, where we're saving more money than what we thought. Maybe if we had a hiccup where we're not saving as much as we thought, I think we're going to be able to compare it. But as of right now, what we did see and have reported on was that we're currently estimating with the changes or actions that have already taken place. The current estimate is about $4.6 million in savings. And again, like I say, we'll give an update monthly on that.
You'll see that in Finance Committee and then you'll report it there.
In Finance Committee, and I'll report it in the report. Cost report amendments, we did receive, not prior to month end, so as far as the financials, it doesn't show this, reflect this, but we did receive the 2025 cost report adjustment or amendment back from CMS, which I believe was that 1.7?
1 million bucks. It's in the receivables on the balance sheet.
And so and then we have a $750,000 amount that's estimated for 2024, which you guys see in the budget for incoming for next year. And then we did the second internal rate review, as we discussed, it came in showing that I had 1.6 million. It looks like it's down to 1.1 now. Off the press there that will be accounted for in June. The one thing that did come up here was the Bailey model that we talked about previously. It's still in the works. They should have that available to us in the next 30 days, which should hopefully help us predict more accurately. That's the end goal. And again, just margins are shrinking, getting a little tighter there with everything that we talked about. We did talk about the Rural Healthcare Transformation Program. We got an update from Mike. I know that's an ongoing thing, so I'm sure there's more on that. Basically, same things that we talked about. There are some significant funds that are available for a number of items, including the after is going to start here shortly, and then I guess we're going to know whether we're going to allocate by the end of October. And then again, I just made a note that we will still yet to remain to be seen how or when we'll receive those funds. And it could be, the longest would be potentially 12 months from now. Really with that, that's all I had. Does anybody have questions?
At the beginning of the report, we talked about the imaging center in Evanston and the care center. You gave us a $1.7 million deficit annually for the care center. When I asked about that, I had created like the strategic planning. We couldn't come up with a number. Curious where we came up with that number. Now, does anyone have an answer?
Yeah. Question. So how are we coming up with knowing how much EMS in total is costing us, how much in total the care center is
They're very
costing us?
discrete departments, so every dollar earned and every dollar attributed by department
But then we've adopted an allocation methodology of Indigo.
So that gets, if the direct the income and direct costs come down to a contribution margin, then every department in the hospital is allocated our overhead, fixed overhead, based on different allocation methodologies for each type of dollar, right? So let's say the rev cycle is based on gross charges, that's what they do. They bill gross charges. So to the extent a department is billing gross charges, their share of the revenue department is allocated to their department. Or maintenance is based on the square footage of the department that they use. That kind of thing, all the way down the line for IT is based on full-time equivalents in the department. So all those fixed expenses are allocated to the departments.
So Abby, there's certain expenses that we can just laser pinpoint, that is definitely the care center. And then there's expenses where, well, it's kind of like, couldn't be, how much of this? And so we have to come up with a methodology that we can equitably take those dollars and say, this is how much the care center is allocated as far as the overhead. So when you include the direct expenses associated with the care center and the allocated overhead based off of those different methodologies.
And the income, like what the residents are paying.
And all the income.
And it's 1.7.
It's 1.7.
The income is not
Our
allocated.
recollection could be different, but what I remember from February was that we were talking that it wasn't a loss leader. Back in February, when we were talking about selling it.
And in that conversation, we were right in the process. It was in the heat of the moment of trying to figure out how are we going to agree on that methodology of allocation.
I agree on methodology.
Yeah, and so.
And it's an area that I read the notes.
Yeah, February might have been a little, knee-jerk response, but now that we have really taken the time to say, we agree on that, we agree on that, we agree on that, that's where we are.
Yeah, and is there a possibility that a care center that shows a 1.7 deficit is potentially up for some allocation from that rural health transformation or not?
There is no monies in the rural health transformation that could go to our care center.
Yeah. But really, I mean,
we do.
People keep talking about the mill levy and like, we already paid for EMS, and I'm like, in my opinion, I mean, I know that we technically do spend $100 there, but it is intended for some of that, right? ER services.
It's intended for a lot of things.
There's a million things.
Yeah.
There's this misconception that
the
it's
one thing that
EMS
it
only.
really isn't intended for is EMS.
Right.
Our original bylaws or formation, it was tax dollars for medical.
We shot ourselves in the foot by saying in the county report that this is going towards EMS. We should have put as well as this and this and this. I mean, we did include hospital operations, but
They think that means light switches. So if you're comfortable publishing that it's a $1.7 million loss annually, it does help the narrative of the mill levy that I read the letter to from the mayors, and they have this misconception that that means EMS dollars, and it doesn't.
But we stated that.
yeah,
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Lori, I think it's out of hand.
Yeah, I just think it's important to remember what Scott and Dan just mentioned though about the indirect. So we've been throwing out the same number, 1.7 for EMS. That's without the indirect overhead, and the 1.7 at the care center, we're allocating that indirect overhead as well.
I get it.
So there are two different
yeah.
numbers.
And then on top of that, Tori astutely points out that there's color commentary behind each of these losses. So the hospital does swing bed.
Yeah.
Right?
I can do that math in my head.
Right? So the revenue, because we get higher revenue if swing bed happens on the med-surg floor.
Totally.
Than if it were done in
the care center.
Care center.
Yeah.
But we make that decision, and so we don't want to unfairly say that, okay, care center, we're basically competing with you. And so the hospital numbers are going to be more favorable, and the care center is going to have to look a little bit more unfavorable because of that swing bed revenue not going through them. So those are the types of things that we certainly want to let you know what the numbers are, but let's make sure that we have the conversation about what's driving that.
Totally get that. I wouldn't be publishing what the expense is, just more of the narrative around more people's health, getting the narrative around the fact that it isn't designated for EMS. There are many other places, out of the goodness of our heart, we are happy to step in on.
And to your point, Abby, the hardest thing and the thing I'm struggling with right now with the community and the community leaders is what you folks have spent months and months trying to understand and asking questions is the ecosystem of healthcare. You know, there's symbiotic relationships that are taking place where we can isolate and make things mutually exclusive, but are they really in the ecosystem of healthcare? And the answer is no, they're not. There's these very intricate relationships with the dollars that we're trying to manage and trying to figure out how to balance everything. And I think what gives me a little bit more patience is just remembering, forgive them for they know not what they do. They don't understand. They just don't comprehend what you folks understand because you've spent hours upon hours upon hours trying to understand yourself.
Sorry, yeah.
And that number at the care center it's grown, but not a lot. I've always remembered it being $1 million or $1.5 million loss since
Right.
I've been on the board. I think I could safely say that. I don't remember all the exact numbers.
Well, I don't know.
It's always, and I don't know how they allocated everything, but when we asked for a report, it's always said in the $1.5 million, as I recall. Anyway,
So that is the direct number that you recall. We've never done this indirect allocation. So
So it
we're
was
talking
worse.
apples to oranges.
so it was worse, you're saying?
It was
in
worse,
fact.
is what I'm trying to say.
It was
I don't
just-
have, I'm sure Scott.
I
can
think
be-
so too, because they've resolved some issues with how they bill, like duplicate rooms, and there's so many things, so I'm like, I mean,
Cool, you have a comment?
Yeah, so Abby, real quick, I just wanted to respond to your question there a little bit.
more of a statement, it was more of a
So-
statement, I'll be honest, I know it was more of a
Well,
statement.
going further back, I mean, the reason why we have that number now is because there's been a lot of time spent on that since February, with Dan and Scott and providing some allocations. They went through and come up with a number. When I talk about it being a drag on cash flow, that does not mean that, hey, we should go cut that. And I'm
No,
not
I know you're
suggesting that. I'm saying, hey, these are things that we need to be aware of are dragging cash flow.
Yeah.
And these are the numbers that we're showing based on allocation.
This is how I look at it, we
There's-
know how we got to the formula, we apply it a subsequent
Right.
year, and if it went to 1.6, we know we did something different to change
Right.
the loss,
But you
which
have to make-
I know gets accounted for in other ways.
Well, and I think the board appreciates that as we're getting down to managing this business on one lever, and that, the three levers are usually volume, price, and expense management. We're too expensive, so rate is becoming not a lever we can pull. Volume is challenging right now. And really the only lever is expense management, and we're gonna talk about this. If that's the only lever you can pull, you better dang well be smart about where there is opportunity and how it's going to impact the rest of the ecosystem. So we are looking at everything. I mean, we've done analysis on infusion, on cardiology, on emergency rooms, on rheumatology, anything that we feel like is suspect or that we need to, understand better to find cost savings. And it's eating our margin. You talk about the margin conversation. Well, what is adding to our margin? What's taking away from our margin? But these are the big ones outside the hospital. Okay, so
I get it,
the hospital is
one ecosystem.
is one ecosystem, but there's still some connectivity of
Biomes.
what do you call it?
Biomes.
Biomes. Thank you. Okay, to continue the analogy of the EMS of the freestanding imaging center and the care center and the foundation, but I think that we can go in future board meetings into more detail as to where we feel like, we can find opportunities. Another thing that we're subsidizing is OB, right? That's part of the hospital, right?
Right.
So are there opportunities within the hospital to reduce expenses? Absolutely. We're not just saying, hey, we need to focus on these three, but without question, you can't ignore the big elephant in the room, and that's EMS.
So, these are three things that, if you look at and compare yourself to other hospitals, many other hospitals don't offer
EMS or a care center,
imaging center.
So when we're trying to do a hospital comparison, we're actually, we're pretty good at running the hospital. We just have some other things that we're trying to juggle for the community as well.
But the important thing, and Tori brought this up, I mean, at the end of the day, in making decisions, we're gonna have to look at all facets of how we're being affected by that line item. So, how does that affect us in other ways, downstream revenue, downstream expenses, allocations?
The ecosystem.
Yeah, are we gonna, if we didn't have that, would we just have to allocate more funds and more expenses to the other departments? I mean, there's a lot of that goes into it. Just saying, hey, look, just we're so based on applications, that'd be the major drawing capital.
Yeah, but every department has had this formula applied to it,
Yes.
and so they have a baseline.
Every volume generating department.
Sure.
Non-volume generating expenses. Okay.
The only way to tell if we're getting more efficient is to have a baseline and compare to the right thing, so.
I don't know. To that point, it's been as a leader in a lot of those areas, it has been vitally important for us to have that information. So I do appreciate that now, because now we actually know what we're doing, and we know that it's equally applied to every department. Before, it wasn't necessarily that way, so we didn't know exactly what was happening. So I think it's been very beneficial. So kudos to Scott and his team for working hard on that, and so we can have this.
And a lot of this work is done, right? It doesn't take as much effort to do subsequent
Well,
reports.
I think there's been hundreds of hours on George's part and the whole accounting team, and input from administration and directors. I mean, it's really been a team effort to try to figure out how are we going to make better decisions and how are we going to get the right information. We don't want to make decisions based off of wrong information. So there's been debate within the organization. Hey guys, do we agree or not agree on this number? And are we willing to hang our hat on this decision based off of this information? Now, I will say that Epic has been essential to getting to where we are now. The transparency of the information, quality data, the volumes, everything like that. You can't do this unless we had a system like Epic.
Thank you.
Anything else from the committee? Quality?
So I am doing quality. We talked about, quality is always great to be in, always good things going on there. A few things is, the physicians were concerned about accurate readings on the blood pressure machines, and so they had all the machines calibrated to show the accurate readings, so that got all done, so I thought that was a good thing to do. The diabetes control, the A1Cs were not getting done on a regular basis. And Mark Larson has, they've been sending out emails and stuff through to get to the people to have their A1Cs done. And now instead of, there's a standing order, you can go in and get one done, and they send you a reminder to go get that done. So that's a good thing for us to get those done for people. Let's see, radiology. Oh, radiology times. They've carved out 11 hospitals. So that's removed 3,000 readings. So now they're getting their readings back in 2 days or less, which is great. So that's been really good for the radiology department to get that stuff done. Last thing is Mallory talked about, I guess, there used to be like 2 different forms for quality improvement. There was one and then there was another one with the care center. And anyway, Mallory's been working on getting that into just one form so that there's not 2 separate ones. And she feels like that's been going good and they've got that form going. So now there's just one instead of having to fill out a couple of them. So that's it.
Okay. Ethics, compliance, and technology.
I have that report for this time.
Go ahead.
So the Ethics, Compliance, and Technology meeting was held on June 11th, and among the things that we discussed, there was one self-pay patient issue that occurred last month where a care center resident had been, a self-pay billing issue had been corrected. And so there are some steps to take to fix that, but also to help avoid it in the future. We talked a bit also about Medicaid rules that are fairly strict around discounts. And so Tori and Sarah, we talked with them both about how they're working closely together to follow the Medicaid policies. And so we discussed that a little bit as well and how that affected the discount policy that we discussed previously. Sadie Garvin provided education and discussed the privacy chart monitoring process. In the past 90 days, 104 cases were reviewed. There was one self-lookup violation that was a policy violation, but it wasn't really considered to be a HIPAA violation. The committee also discussed Epic's break the glass process and how EIP patient protections are applied, for example. A HIPAA incident involving revenue enterprises was reported. There were 2 itemized bills that were mailed to the wrong patients, that it was just swapped between the 2. The incident was reported and the patients were notified as required. A telehealth audit identified concerns that some visits were conducted while the provider was not licensed in the state where the patient was physically located at the time of the visit. There's been a policy that's been drafted for approval and some provider education is happening. Regarding security, Chris Hinton reported that email defenses remain strong. Email filters analyze and block thousands of messages per day. Note before phishing failure rates are trending down with staff training completed quarterly and phishing campaigns run monthly. Any failed phishing tests trigger some additional training. Chris also presented the Epic AI roadmap with several new enhancements to reduce administrative burden, enhance clinical and operational efficiency. The committee discussed confidentiality and accuracy risks, but noted that Epic AI features are in a secure environment with proper safeguards, and the Star Valley Health policy requires human review. AI features assist or enhance, but do not replace any human or clinical actions. And then finally, an unplanned Epic downtime occurred on June 7th of 2026. Some sites lost access or had data that did not save. So a thorough data reconciliation process is underway with support from OCHIN and Epic. A debrief with the physicians and medical leadership is scheduled. The lessons learned will be referenced to make improvements. Some areas that have already been identified are within communication, continued training, and updating some downtime procedure documents. We had a time slot open for some open discussion where there was really no additional new items that were brought forward, and the next meeting is scheduled for September 10th.
Any questions?
I have
Jeff.
You know the answer. If we have somebody credentialed to do telehealth, and let's say that I make the appointment, and then I travel to Utah and I do my telehealth appointment in Utah, is that a problem? They can't
No.
provide me service if I end up in Utah.
Here's the problem,
No.
if you live in Freedom
I don't know,
and
yeah,
they're telehealthing to a Wyoming
yeah,
hospital,
yeah.
and
What
they
a
live on the
nightmare.
Idaho side,
That's, yep,
they have to be
that's.
licensed
In
to that
Idaho.
extra 10 feet.
Yep. But you could ask the patient to step across the highway.
Yeah, or lie,
Yeah, that's what.
as
I
to their
mean, how-
location. Nobody knows where they're located
Why
at.
would the doctor ask that, like, where are you sitting right now?
They're not.
So are we asking you to ask? Yeah.
Chris?
Yes, so, the policy that's being,
That
up
is,
for approval,
yeah.
does state that steps that providers will need to take to ensure that as part of the billing claims, you have to submit the location of this location as part of the billing claims.
Telehealth, they were on the phone.
Where the service was rendered.
Right?
So you have to ask.
Crazy. Yeah, wow. Thank you. I would. Except your stinking phone's tracking you, right?
It's
So,
interesting, but
so
it's all about licensing.
yeah, so the provider can say,
Insurance, I'm
you
sure
know I'm
that
only
is.
allowed to treat you if you're in Wyoming. Are you in Wyoming? And they say yes, they can say yes to their notes. That should be what the training is.
No comment.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Before we, let's see,
Let's
we have
finish
two
up
other
these,
things.
shouldn't we? Yeah.
Foundation, did we have a foundation meeting?
No.
No, we did not. It was July 14th.
And auxiliary,
That means,
Clint, did you report auxiliary?
so, yep, as always, street meeting, just talked to him about the payer mix, budget, EMS, the foundation, CEO payment. Fun little update from them. They gave out 2 $500 scholarships, one to a Madeline Dayton from Cokeville, one to a Candace Price from Starlight Health. I mean, Starlight Health. The other is SDA. So, yeah, that's it. Just talked about all the activities they're getting ready to help. So, pretty simple.
Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break.
from the board about being more specific with some cost reduction initiatives that we can give you as you interact with the community. That feedback was well received. And I know that we can give to the finance committee, $4.5 million, but having some specifics, I think, is what you're really looking for. So I included in my report on Roman numeral 3, operational excellence, 3 cost reductions that we just recently put in place were eliminations of manager positions, and to the tune of about one manager position was in accounting, replaced with a staff accounting role, a therapy service manager role, and an operating room manager role. And so, you're looking at about $260,000, $270,000 of cost savings just in that. There's obviously a whole list of things that we're working on, and each month we'll share with you some of those examples about how we're trying to find staffing efficiencies. Obviously, 60 to 65% of our costs are in labor. And what we're trying to do is figure out the right way to manage those labor costs without, sending a shockwave through the organization. And so we're doing this very strategically. But those cost savings are happening.
Is that a consolidation of roles or elimination of roles?
Elimination of the position. Yeah. So somebody's going to be doing something else, or those responsibilities have been allocated to other positions. Okay, go ahead.
I just said, you have invest people in culture, it says Randy, you can begin with a PA. Did we lose a PA in the after picture?
Go ahead. Do you want to speak to? Yeah, why don't you go ahead and just stand up right there.
I'm just wondering, because that's a cost. So I was just wondering, did we lose a PA and we're replacing
Yeah,
it, or
yeah.
what?
Brandon Ayers
Oh,
had been there for like 8 years, and he transitioned over to Dr. Brian
that's right.
in October of last year.
Oh, okay.
So we've been recruiting for a while to backfill that position.
Okay.
So it's a replacement of that person. When Brandon moved over, it was an additional expense to Brian for practice. But,
Now you bring up in our minds a very important aspect to staffing. I touched on non-revenue generating positions. You can make the argument that therapy services in the OR have revenue generating positions, but specifically with clinical providers that are in an urgent care, are seeing patients directly, are billing for those services, we got to be careful not to cut the revenue to.
Right. I just wonder. I just was asking.
And so I think, but it just allows for us to make sure that as we talk about staffing, that we do distinguish between are we shooting ourselves in the foot?
Mm-hmm.
So. And I think, are there any other questions? I mean, it's in writing.
Yeah.
It's pretty to the point. Is there anything on the report, CEO report, written report that I can clarify, or am I missing something that you would want me to highlight?
Transition from SNF to NF.
So
item number, loyal patients A, care centers back to being a 5-star. After not having a star rating due to the transition for 2.
yeah, so we,
What are those samples?
well, at the first of the year, we applied to become a SNF in the skilled nursing facility, in the care center for Medicare patients. Give us that flexibility. It hasn't been utilized that much, but what happened is.
Is that Tori?
That's Tori.
Yeah, it is Tori.
Yeah, so there was some confusion with that application, and there was I forgot the reason why they didn't didn't give us credit for becoming a 5-star, but we got that resolved. And now we're back to being a 5-star. It was a technical issue because of the application. Oh, Tori, I forgot that you were going to get on. Is there some more detail that you could provide? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. No, when you submit, so when we transitioned over, it just changed our whole provider number in the system. That's just how it goes. So there wasn't a mistake or any mishap. It just changes our provider number. And so because we didn't have the same provider number, they didn't have historical data to give us a star rating, because they go back and they look at your last year's survey results. They look at all of our PB&J submissions, and because we have a new provider number, we were looked at like a brand new facility instead of looking at the historical data. So we just had a year gap where they wouldn't give us a star rating, and the reason on CMS's website just says too new to report. And so now that we're out of that year window or coming up on it, they have enough data to give us back the 5-year or the 5-star rating. So hope that helps clear it up.
And we talked about that on the quality committee, of us missing that 5-star rating. So any other questions about the report? Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. FYI, half marathon is on July the 11th. I assume anybody from the board that wants to volunteer, to help out, I'm sure the staff, whoever's managing that, would love additional volunteers. Okay, there isn't anything else. I need a motion to go to is there anything else to discuss? I need a motion to go into executive session. Moved by Cole, seconded by Abby, to go into executive session to discuss. Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You want to repeat it?
Personal.
You looking at 8?
Just say the
Litigation, legal,
issues, real estate
real estate,
acquisition,
personnel,
personnel
safety,
issues.
security, or discussion of trade secrets.
Trade secrets, there you go, that's it, you got it.
Yeah, I meant that.
So that's what Cole's motion was. Andrew has good language for that.
Oh, we have one.
We need, those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now tell us when we're